and focus the work on these identified low-achieving schools. For example, Safe Harbor. A lot of times, some of our schools make AYP because they use the Safe Harbor formula. If these schools are using the Safe Harbor formula, which is calculated depending on the size of the school, and some of the schools are not making it, then what does that say for our schools? Okay? Building and facilities. A clear accounting of the state and physical structures and the conditions is crucial or critical. And the commitment from the BIE on how and when they will be addressed. So we have to look at our school system. I know some of our school systems, or some of our schools, especially the residential halls, have huge cracks in the walls. Some of them have leaky roofs. We need to develop a plan and negotiate with the BIA and the BIE on how can we fix these in a timely manner. Okay? Teacher housing. A lot of teacher housing across the reservation, some of them are not fit for a family member. Some of them are not fit for one individual. How do we work with the federal government to fix these facilities so that we can attract the best teachers at our schools? Okay? Technology. As we move towards the Common Core, there's only one grant school that's ready to go for Common Core assessment in terms of taking it through the internet. That's Shanto. They're the only school. So how is Shanto able to do that so that we can do that for all our schools? Okay, we're going to need everybody's input for that. Transportation. Throughout the presentations all over the reservation, there's a great concern about the roads that our buses travel on. We need to take that into consideration. We know that this past winter, this last storm, we had several schools that had buses stuck in the mud. How do we fix that? How do we negotiate with the BIE so that to ensure that these roads we're able to utilize them year-round? Okay. Administrative and operational costs. Avoid using instructional costs to pay for administrative and operational costs. A lot of times, because of the shortfall of the administrative costs, we take money from instruction. We need to make it so there's enough money for administrative costs, as well as instructing our students. So we need to look at all that stuff, and we're going to need everybody's help. Now I'm going to move over to human resources. Human resources requirements. Identify human resource issues and challenges, what basically already exists within the BIE and the Navajo Nation, because we're going to have to look at both documents, as well as other documents. We also we have to look and see how the public schools have what's written in their policies and procedures. Okay? Ensure that new procedures are compatible for continuation in all critical management functions. Okay? The current Navajo Nation Personnel Policies Manual needs to be revised. Okay? Because what's written right now is not fit for schools. So we have to look at that and we have to revise it so that it works for our schools. As well as the BIEs. How is the BIE 62 BIAM Education Personnel Policy Manual? How is that going to fit with the Navajo Nation? So we have to look at that as well. We need to align the BIE practices with Navajo Nation procedurals in these areas. in terms of hiring. Who's going to do the hiring? How are we going to get the best teachers to our schools in a timely manner? We know that the grant schools can do it very quick. The BIE system, they have to go through different channels in order to hire somebody. How can we streamline that better? Payroll. The grant schools can get their payroll out real quick. Okay? Employee benefits. We have some grant schools that have really good benefit programs. The Navajo Nation also has a good benefit. We have to look at all the benefit programs that are out there. Which is best? Which one's going to be best for our schools? The salary, health, retirement, and risk management. Those are all the things that we have to look at. Now we'll move over to curriculum. I ate too much. It's hard for me to talk. Recommendations for curriculum model based on the guidelines specified in the Navajo Nation Accountability Workbook. Okay? We want to use the use of the Navajo, the net content standards in language, culture, history, government, and camp relationships. Okay? Now, I know that certain schools were asking, how come the Navajo Nation doesn't have their own curriculum? Well, what the Navajo Nation does have is the standards, just like each state has their own standards. If we develop a curriculum, then schools are going to say, well, that's not how we taught. That's how Wendourong taught. Over here in Tuba City, we say things a little bit differently. We teach things a little bit differently, which is the reason why we just have the standards. If we have a curriculum, then people are going to say, wait, that's not how we taught. So the option was that, the goal was that we aligned the standards, and each school would develop their own curriculum according to how they speak, according to how they teach their children for that particular area. Culturally responsive curriculum with appropriate instructional practices in all K-12 grades. Okay, the goals and objectives, the steps. Examine the state curriculum, assessment, and teacher quality requirements in the states in which Navajo Nation BIE buildings operate, which is basically Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. How do they evaluate their teachers? How do they set their assessments? Do we need just one for all our schools? How is that going to fit? If we just have one for all our Navajo Nation schools, when our students go from leave the BIE system and then go into the public school system, how is that going to be aligned? We have to look at all that. Okay? Comparative strategies with Common Core standards approved by New Mexico and the state best strategies of Arizona and Utah in the areas of STEM and reading. STEM is there because we want to get our students prepared for college. And we want to ensure that their reading programs meet that requirement. Okay? STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. That's what STEM stands for. Examine integration of Navajo language and culture into mainstream curriculum. There are some schools that are running for this. At one point, Rough Rock, Rock Point, Rama, they were all teaching Navajo. How can we bring that back using what they developed for all our schools? Okay? Okay, design phase, recommendations proceed. Now, as I explained that the feasibility study looked at those 4 areas, now they're going to give the recommendation on how we're going to execute the design phase. Now they did this study. the baseline, what exists within the Navajo Nation. Now, phase 2 is the Sovereignty and Indian Education Act. This is where we're going to actually meet with all the stakeholders in those 4 areas. Like, for instance, Samuel is very good with curriculum. We're going to need his help. We're going to need Dr. Ancita Benelli's help in Navajo language. We're going to need the school board's help in terms of the governance. This is what we're going to be working on tomorrow. We're going to be assigning, we're going to be developing, communicating. We're going to need Ms. Marco's expertise in curriculum. We're going to look at Tuba City. How come they're making AYP all the time? Lonyaja, Lonyaja Community School, Baka. What are they doing? They're making AYP, so we're going to be needing everybody's input. Create a community-based team for writing K-12 curriculum. That's what I talked about. We're going to need Ms. Largo's help, we're going to need Manuel's help, everybody that has curriculum expertise. Utilize talents of faculty within the BIE system. We're also going to need their expertise in the areas of reading and STEM. The BIE already put out a BIE curriculum framework that's been distributed to all their schools. That was also offered to the grant schools for them to use because it's aligned with the Common Core. Okay? Develop partnerships with public schools who teach the net youth and who excel in the state standards. So we're going to look at Central Consolidated. Their curriculum is already aligned with the Common Core. They incorporate the Navajo language into their teaching. So we're going to look at what they're doing and then bring it back to our school. We're going to look at Flagstaff Unified. They have a highly recognized or nationally recognized immersion school. We're going to utilize their expertise. So it's just not going to be Navajo Nation working alone. We're going to need everybody's help. But in order to do that, if we're going to work with Gallup, McKinney County, Flagstaff, Page, and other schools, we have to develop MOUs and MOAs, Memorandum of Understanding, Memorandum of Agreement with the states. And we've already started working on that. Work with successful districts that integrate the net language and culture throughout the K-12 curriculum. We're going to look at how Head Start is preparing our students in order for kindergarten. We're going to be looking at that too. Now we move over to policy and regulatory issues. The need for a new data generated by feasibility study recommendation. Now the feasibility study, when they did their study, the data that we had was outdated. We've already heard that. You guys are using outdated information. That's true. So we're going to need new data. Because we're moving towards Common Core, that old data is not aligned to the Common Core. So we're going to need new data for that.